Good afternoon and welcome to Fish Hawk Live in the Great Lakes Fishing Podcast. And today we are joined by Captain Cory Elder from XTR Fishing Charters out of Erie, Pennsylvania. We are going to be talking some Lake Erie. Cory, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Chris.
Well, it looks like you guys got a little bit of weather in your area today. I saw on Pete Alex's page they were showing like 11 footers out there. A great day to do some surfing on Lake Erie.
Yeah, it was awful tempting to break out the boogie board today.
So some weather going on out there, and we really appreciate you taking some time, and hopefully you get a little rest out of one of these blow days and kind of some R&R and some family time. Cory, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your charter.
So we're out of Erie, PA. We pretty much run from ice out to usually the end of November, early December. We'll start the year off bass fishing, lake trout trolling, and then we get into the walleye for the part of the summer. And a good friend, Damien, actually, he's been kind of my steelhead mentor and trout mentor. We've been getting into that during August as well. And then we transitioned back into smallmouth and end the year jigging for lake trout. Pretty much all in November. That's where you'll find us.
Yeah, so a real multi-species area there out of Erie, Pennsylvania. What's kind of special and unique about that? I mean, there's a lot of places on Lake Erie that people can go fishing. What's unique about your area? What would make someone want to take a charter out of Erie, Pennsylvania, compared to maybe some other destination on Lake Erie?
Erie's the reason we really like Erie is it's really diverse. We don't have the walleye like the islands do year round. We do have a resident population, but our summertime, which is peak tourism season as well, we're just flooded with walleye. There's walleye everywhere. But we can start the year off, do a soft start with some lake trout, do some trolling for lake trout in the spring. And it's an incredible smallmouth fishery. You transition out of the walleye towards the end of the year, and you're back into you trout fishing. You can jig for lake trout. And we got the ice fishing too. I don't charter really on the ice. Maybe a handful of trips. And it's fun. You get out, do a lot of fun fishing through the ice, and it's just nice because you get a little bit of everything here.
And you guys are also real close to the Prescott Island area. Tell us a little bit about that spot.
Prescott is nice. One, it's an awesome tourist attraction. It's you get a blow day. You can hang out on the beach. There's beautiful beaches. They spend a lot of money in maintaining the beaches. Got amusement parks. There's a lot for the family. If the wife isn't into fishing, or Uncle Joe doesn't want to go fishing, he can go to the wineries. He can go. It's a tourism trap, really. I mean, it's awesome for the charters. You get a lot of people from out of town. Hotels everywhere. The springtime's nice. Prescott, it offers protection, so you can get what would be a blow day, and you can go and hide out in the bay. And there's steelhead in there in the springtime. The smallmouth fishery is it's incredible, and they'll usually hang around Prescott towards the end of June, sometimes even 4th of July. Sometimes there's still smallmouth around the bay. So you get to cancel a blow day for a walleye charter. You might be able to talk them into, hey, you want to go jig for some smallmouth, and sometimes people go for that. So it's nice to have that backup.
Yeah, very, very cool. If anyone's got any questions for Cory, you can put your sandwich down for just a second, type them in there, and this show is just as much your show as it is our show. So if you got questions for Cory on that Lake Erie, Pennsylvania area, or just on general fishing questions, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll get them to Captain Cory Elder. Tell us a little bit about the structure in that area. What kind of things are you fishing when you're going out there to do some trolling this time of year?
Near shore, it's nice. We have those shale ledges, a lot of rock piles, and it's real cool. We have the first trench, we have the second trench, and then that's on the west end of town. And on the east side of town, we have the mountain, which drops down into that 100+ stuff where you can still get into some suspended walleye, and you drop the fish hawk down, you find that cold water, and you're steelhead fishing. Where we catch a couple coho, or even Pete Alex. I don't know how many coho he's got. He's Atlantic salmon, fish that aren't really known to be in Lake Erie right now, and he's catching them on the United States side quite well. So it's nice. You can really do anything. We got 83-degree water near shore on top, and you can find 48-degree water right now out deep.
How deep does it get in your neck of the woods, Cory?
Yeah, 130. Out in front of Prescott, you can find 125, 130. And then once you head over towards New York, you get more into that 150. You might find some lake trout now. A lot of our lake trout population is bumped out just a little bit over the line, but there's definitely lake trout in United States and PA waters right now. Just there's not the big numbers yet. They'll start to show up, in a month or so, in better numbers. Anyways, you can definitely find them crawling around on the bottom out there. Typically, we're fishing. Our fish are 40, 50 foot down a lot most of the summertime, and unless the lake flips some, they'll come up to the top, or you might find them a little deeper. But for the most part, that's where we're walleye fishing.
All right, we're starting to get a few questions. And speaking of walleye fishing, here's Rick. And Rick's a guy that watches the show often, and he said he liked and shared the show already too. So we appreciate those shares and getting the word out on the show. But Rick would like to know, what's your thought on the walleye migration this year?
I think we kind of were handicapped right out of the gate. This spring we had a lot of northeast blows, and just over in Ohio they were crushing them, and guys were catching limits, but you were running every rod you could per customer to get there. And I do think that the weather that we had this spring definitely hindered them from moving as quickly as they would. But we got a good solid 2 months of that fast and furious action, and I do believe it's slowing down now. And if we keep getting these blows like we had the last 48 hours, I don't think we're going to have a good October bite. I think it's going to, halfway through this month, I think they might start to skedaddle a little faster than we'd like for business. But hey, that's called the customers and say, hey, just be honest with them and say, hey, you might want to check into Ohio, get with a charter in Ohio.
All right, here's another guy that watches the show quite a bit. It's Arlo, and Arlo wants to know, what's your favorite species to fish for?
I was never a huge trout fan, but Damian Kuzman over at Bay Rat Lures has been my mentor trout fishing, and I'm not gonna lie, I definitely look up to Captain Pete. So that trout fishing is a lot of fun. At the end of the day, the jigging for lake trout, it's probably my favorite thing to do. It's cold out. There's not many people on the water. You feel like you're kind of out there alone. You might see 3 or 4 boats out there on a weekday, and it's just nice and peaceful. You go jigging for them, catch a lot of fish. They're easy to catch. I grew up bass fishing. I mean, that's what I did. I mean, I was a bass fisherman. I was a bass guy, and I still have the sparkly boat. So that's my kind of deal there.
I want to get into some of that jigging later in the show, but let's talk about that for a second. How did you kind of get from a bass guy to being this multi-species trolling guy? What was that transition, and what was that kind of transformation like, and what spurred you to do that?
Well, I don't know if I bumped my head hard, or I don't know what happened, but I sure did transition. It was a hard transition out of that. There's always that stigma, oil and water, they don't seem to mix well. But I think there's a definitely select few the charters, especially in Ohio and PA and New York on Lake Erie, the multi-species guys, that I think I'm challenged to learn more. I want to grow. I want to do as much as I can, and especially from a business aspect, just take advantage of much of the season as you can to make money. But, a lot of reading, a lot of watching videos, peers, a lot of people teaching me stuff. And I have idols. I look up to people, and, I learn a lot from others. I didn't learn it all on my own. That's for sure. There was a lot of help. A lot of people helped me, and, I was okay with that.
All right. Speaking of some help and some information, here's Todd Redmond. He's got a question that's a little bit different than what we typically get here. He says he's a big drum fisherman on Lake Erie. Do you ever target them? And if so, what are your favorite baits for drum?
It was probably 4 years ago. It was kind of a joke. I started advertising freshwater drum trips, and I got a pretty good pull of people from England, from Europe. These people that were big carp fishermen over there, they come over here, and you catch 50, 60. We've had 100+ days on 4-6 hour trips going drum fishermen. We have a series of pipelines, anything near shore structure in the summertime. You use your side scan, you just kind of troll around, you see a pack of carp, you see 100 of them, and blade baits, anything silver, you catch a pile of them. We've had some cancer research charters where they keep 50 freshwater drum, and I'm not exactly sure what they do with them. I know they said that, hey, we're going to eat half of these and the other half goes to cancer research. So it was cool. And there's a population of people that catch and release, and there's people that eat them things and they like them, the small ones.
Yeah, they're definitely fun to catch. I mean, they put up a pretty good fight, and they usually got some weight behind them, and they're definitely a good time to catch. And a lot of guys, that's what they want to do. They want to catch and release anyway. So what difference does it make?
Right.
They're in it for the battle. Let's talk a little bit about walleyes. So let's get back to walleye. You're going to go out walleye fishing, not today, but let's say this time of year. What does a typical spread for Captain Cory Elder look like? You're going to go out targeting walleye in Lake Erie.
Once they go deep, I don't like to run a lot of boards. I might run 2 boards aside. My target is dipsy fishing. Typically, I'll run 6 dipsy rods and 2 rigger rods. Throw a cheater down your rigger lines or run stackers. But traditionally, I'm just, you get in crisscross applesauce. You can turn sharp with those dipsies, turn a lot sharper, than you would if you had boards out. Sometimes I don't even put boards out. I definitely I'm a size 1 Lord Jensen fan. It's just nice. It's easy, fast turns, fast fish. If those fish are active, you can really pile them up fast. Traditionally, I'll run this time of the year. I'll run spoons one side, and I'll run long, shallow baits on the other side, just to try to target. Is there little pin emeralds out there? Is there a little bigger, like a smoked smelt, it's trout species type of deal? So you can get both sides of baits. Especially if you're going like tomorrow, we go out, it's going to be a blank slate. I don't know what's going on. I know the water temperature is dropping. It's already dropped 8 degrees. Some of them fish might move in shallow, and I might have to toss some boards out and run some really short leads and some skinny water. But for the most part, this time of the year, I am a fan of running dipsies. It's easy and it's fast.
Tell us a little bit about some of your favorite spoons and stick baits, and what are some of the colors that you like to use in your area?
I've been using a lot of, the purples. I leave early. I leave the dock early, and a lot of people kind of get on me about that. But I go out slow. If I can see the moonlight, I'll follow the moon. If not, I'll wait till I get a little haze that I can see. So I run a lot of glow. If you're next to my boat, I got the big mag light and glowing them things, and especially in that big moon, we had last 2 weeks ago, like those fish were on fire in the dark. And as soon as that sun come up, it slowed down, and by 9 o'clock, the bite was pretty tough. you had to, the big boats were throwing out the full spread, after that sun was up a good bit. They're feeding at night, that moonlight buffet.
What's that like for your clients to go out there in the dark and be yanking in walleyes one after another in the moonlight?
If you get guys that have, they're fishermen, they're fisherwoman, they've been on the water before, it's usually pretty smooth. I'll turn the deck lights on. You get into the tourism crowd, it can be tough. If the bite's fast enough, I'll just put 2 rods out each side just to keep it simple for them. I tell them, hey, I'm like, you see the moon up there? I'm like, just kind of watch that rod in the moon.
You talk about the tourism crowd. You've got a lot of different types of clients that come on, but what are some of the challenges that you see fishing out of Erie, Pennsylvania? What are some things that you have to contend with as a captain fishing out of that port?
The weather, the weather is a big thing. If any captain up here, if you have a slow period, and the great thing is you get a softball tournament, a baseball tournament, or any sports tournaments, or you get a lot of these we got these expo centers up here, and if they're full, your phone's usually ringing. You got a lot of old time charter captains up here. They have a contact book that you can't touch. It's great. They're full. So there's definitely an overflow pool that, if you were to start a business up here, there's plenty to go around with the tourism that comes in, and that definitely makes it's just a great place to have a business. There's so many people wanting to go fishing.
So you've got an area with a lot of boats. What is the pressure like in that area when you go out there? How many boats do you typically run into, and what is that like? Is it kind of a battle type of deal, or you guys kind of fall in line?
It can be. I think there's a lot of situations where you'll come there's a dozen boats coming into one spot, and you get to the point where really no one's in the wrong, and it's like, okay, how are we going to avoid this? So people start trying to get out of the way from each other, and sometimes there's colorful language. Sometimes, the thing that's really nice about having those multiple trenches here, you can get out of those crowds. You can, if you want to spend gas, you can get away from that. You get into that first drop, there's fish everywhere, and by 8 o'clock you can see boats every direction on the horizon. You can motor out of that. You can go 8 miles north, and you can play on the other trenches. You can get up on the ledges on the down to the north or south side of those ledges and find the same deal. Usually you might have to look a little harder, but you can almost always find pods of fish and fish them that aren't pressured. But the pressure near shore is real.
All right, we're getting a couple more questions here. One from Captain Richard Hajecki from Crazy Yankee Sport Fishing, and he says, do you find that the wave action makes the sticks better? Spoons shine more on a slick, calm day. What's your thoughts there? We get those like 2.5, 3 foot waves. I think the stick bite's incredible, even on the inline boards. I had to play around a lot, starting out, with releases and, braid versus mono. I pretty much have it dialed in now. I'm a mono guy. I switched over, and those wave surges, I think I always notice the fishing's faster, and when you get those surges of waves. And same thing with dipsy fishing. I just think it just adds an action that you can't replicate on a calm day. So I totally agree with that. How about the spoon end of it? Do you feel like the spoons are better on the calm day?
That's something I've heard people talk about. I've heard people mention. I haven't found a hard correlation myself. I'd be interested to hear more people's opinion on it. I typically run stick baits on my boards when it is under 3 foot. If we typically, when you get over 3 foot waves, a lot of times I'm not even out there anyways. But on those rough days, I do prefer running dipsies, but I'll run sticks and spoons. I'll run them out both sides, and just kind of play with it. It just seems to change day to day.
All right. Speaking of dipsies, Captain Richard's got another one on dipsies and jets. You find a certain leader length or minimum length that works best.
When I run a lot of dipsies, and I used to run 4 dipsies a side, I'd try to keep it 5 foot, 5.5 foot. The less dipsies I run, I'll try to stretch that leader length out a little bit. But I mean, if it's a hot bite, I swear you could use a 4 foot leader. I like to tip 6 foot, usually my go-to, 6 to 8 foot, especially, if I get the 2 dipsies aside and I'm running boards, I'll run those leaders as long as I can comfortably. And then, trout fishing, we're running 12 foot, 14 foot leaders, for steelhead and the mythical salmon in Lake Erie. They definitely like those longer leaders, definitely help.
All right, here's another one from Rick, and Rick wants to know, do you run wire or braid with your dipsies?
I run 30-pound Power Pro braid.
All right, simple enough there. Let's talk a little bit about some of those unicorn type fish, Cory. You talked a little bit earlier about the coho in the lake and some, the Atlantic salmon. I think is really kind of looked at as unicorn. But what do you see there, and what are kind of some of the trends in Lake Erie? Are you seeing more of those, less of those? What is that? What's going on there?
I've talked to a couple. I've heard different opinions on it. I will admit I'm a bit of a rookie in the whole trout game. Again, Damien and I have been spending some time together, and apples and oranges. Coming from walleye fishing, I know right now my boat's all rigged up for trout fishing. The long leaders. In the morning, I run dark colors. As the sun comes up, I switch to blues and greens, and then crazy, you get to oranges and just vibrant colors down there. Just especially when you're below the thermocline, kind of you hit them UVs and using scents, and you got to watch where's the breaks in the temperature. There's in the morning I do catch them in 70 degrees, but once that sun comes up, you have to be in the 50s.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. That was kind of my next thing was the steelhead fishing. How does that differ from when you're out there chasing walleye?
The cool thing is, out offshore, you could run a walleye program and a trout program at the same time. I mean, you can keep your, if you're running boards, you can keep your board lines up high, get them out away from the boat. You're going to catch walleye. You will catch a few of them bigger walleye down at that thermocline or below the thermocline, but all of them trout, once that sun's up, they seem to really bury into there, and we've been running riggers 60, 80 down, and the thermocline's at 55, and that's where we're tearing trout up, and there's still trout or walleye out there, so you could get 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're out there, and that Damien from Bay Rat is kind of your mentor with that. What are some of your favorite Bay Rat stuff when you're out there chasing these trout?
Buffalo Bill 3.5 has been a killer in with the sun up, and they have those Ric Flair. Actually, I don't know if I have any in the truck. I do not. We've been running those Ric Flairs in green, orange. The bait is predominantly like a pearl white. The 3.5, that's been awesome. In the morning, we'll run some darker stuff. Specific lure colors don't seem to really matter when it's dark out. You just want something dark. And once you get a little light going down into that water, you start to lighten up your baits. We run a lot of the LXDs for walleye. We'll run the 2.5 spoons for walleye, and then once we get offshore, the trout bite we seem to do a little better with the 3.5 spoons. But that's pretty much our bread and butter there.
All right, let's talk Lakers. I want to get into that late season stuff in a moment, but when you're trolling Lakers, what are you how are you targeting them when you're doing the troll bite on the lake trout out there?
We run a pretty simple program. I like cowbells. I know there's, those, I hear people talk about those slow death prism baits, and I'll run 2 cowbells aside. I'll bury one rigger into the mud, and I'll keep one a couple feet off, and I'll throw a couple dipsies out there if you can see any fish suspending, or you can kind of target the steelhead too. But usually in the springtime, I'm going too slow to really get onto a good steelhead bite. I really like that. I can go 1.3. My max is usually 1.8, just enough to get those cowbells to spin. And I'll run spin and glow behind it, or even like a 2.5 spoon. On my dipsies, I'll run mag spoons, big salmon spoons.
Very cool. We got a question here coming in from YouTube from Michael Warren. And Michael says, how deep have you caught lake trout in the summer out on Lake Erie?
In the summertime, I mean, if you were to target them now, you'd want to probably go 120 plus. 120 to, you get into that deeper water to find the deepest water that PA offers. You're getting out into that 150 foot, and use your electronics. If you don't have good electronics, just go play in the mud.
I like it that you bring up electronics, because we're going to get there in just a second. You talked about fish hawk and the speed you were running a little while ago. How about this one? Another one from Rick. He wants to know, what's the current like right now in the Central Basin? What speed are you looking at on your fish hawk when you're out trout fishing?
2.5, 2.8's been really good for trout fishing the last 2 weeks. What that current... Tomorrow's going to be a whole different story. Just the way the wind's been blowing, I think we're going to have a northeasterly current out deep, and I think in shallow, it's just going to kind of catch on to whatever the bottom of the lake is like where you're at. It might jet a little bit east or west. It's hard to say. After these blows, I just kind of play everything by ear. You're starting fresh again. I do believe there's some fish starting to roam west. I think we keep getting these colder blows. It's gonna resort to the steelhead coming in closer.
So things are changing, as it does this time of year. I mean, it's the calendar shows September, and things start really changing out there in the water. But tell us a little bit about some of the electronics you're running on your boat, and why you run what you do.
I'm a Lowrance guy. I've been into Humminbird. I don't think you can go wrong anymore with today's technology with anything. I run a high-speed 2D. I'm partial to the TM150. I got structure scan. I do a lot of shallow stuff. I found a structure scan, actually, even walleye fishing, you can see those suspended fish on there quite well. But I'm a 2D guy when it comes to walleye. In deep water, trout fishing, I'm going to be looking at my 2D. But the structure scan, side scan, whatever the manufacturer calls it, that you're partial to, it's worth its weight in gold. If you're bass fishing, if you're jigging for lake trout, you're just looking for off, near shore structure, and you can see those fish on there. Look like submarines. Like, we were looking for drum in the summertime. I mean, it looks like there's 100 carp below the boat, off to each side. And it doesn't take a whole lot of dialing in for the side scan. I mean, it's, you spend an hour with it, you can probably master it. You just have to know what you're looking for. And a lot of people new to side scan, they just don't know what they're looking for. They're used to seeing these big arches. Now we're looking for Spanish rice and rice.
Well, let's talk about that. You just brought up something that I really want to talk to you about, and that's jigging for lake trout and that late season bite. Tell us a little bit about what that's like in your area, and all I can say is what I've heard is it's epic. So let's hear about that.
It is epic. It's pure insanity. You'll go out there, and as far as targeting, I mean, if you're new to it, as a bass fisherman, you're pretty much looking for the structure that you would if you were bass fishing. You're looking for big breaks and shale, crevices and rock piles, stuff that those trout think that their eggs might stand a chance at surviving in a storm. So their eggs are just going to kind of silt down into cracks in the rock or cracks in the shale. So big shale beds are a good place to start. If you know a shale bed that has rock piles on it, that's even better. You should go side scan it. If there's not fish there, don't waste your time fishing it. Go try to find the fish. And once you find them, you're in their living room. You're going to upset them. You throw something at them, they're going to eat it. But we're pretty partial to blade baits. We use a lot of 3/8 ounce blade baits. A lot of times that time of the year, the water is stained. Gold is a great color. You can get into some bucktails, 1/4 ounce. There's really no need to use anything heavier. We've played around with scents a little bit, but I've found that those fish don't want predators near their eggs. So I feel you could probably use just about anything to catch them. We're real partial to using the blade baits. It's easy. You can tell a customer, hey, drop it to the side of the boat, jig up, you'll feel that flutter, and let it fall real slow. And then with the bucktail, just hit the bottom and jig it up 12 inches, hit the bottom, and repeat until you're drag screaming.
Well, that's just basically you're fishing a reaction bite down there, and they're jumping at what you got. What are we using for rods and line and that type of thing?
I use all bass gear. I really like the 7-foot medium action. I'll use 20-foot backing braid or 20-pound backing on my braid, and then my leader. I found that doesn't even matter. I've tied it straight to the braid, and I saw zero difference in success. But it's still in my mind. I use 16, sometimes 20-pound leaders. It doesn't seem to bother them.
All right, you got to let me know what it's like to pull in a big lake trout in 20 feet of water on bass gear.
It can take some. I started using heavier line because I wanted the customers to catch more fish. 109 in 6 hours is the record for my boat, and 76 in 4 hours. And the only way you're going to get that many fish to the boat in that short of a time is using heavier line. If you can go on to 10-pound test, but you're going to have to set your drag according, and it's going to take you 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes plus to get them in. Just you break your line if you try to horse them.
And it sounds like you probably better prepare with a protein shake or two before you go out there.
Yeah, oh yeah. I do it one day, and then it's just all customers. Like my forearm's tired. I'm like, it's all you guys.
Rick's got one. He wants to know if you use active target when you're jigging. Or live.
I don't. I go to boats with it. It's incredible. I'd say if you're gonna get it, if you're on the fence about it, get it. I'm kind of caught in my ways already, even at a young age. When I am jigging, I have 5,000 waypoints on my GPS for PA waters. I don't know how many thousands of dollars I've wasted in gas. The only advantage for me is to see exactly where the fish are, but I'll use a side scan and I mark those fish. I go downwind of them, kind of, like you're bow hunting. You just want to creep up on those fish, and I know where they're at. I'm going to just use my casting rings. You set them to 30 foot, 40 foot, 50 foot. You get accustomed to that on shore. Go in a parking lot and measure it out. Cast 50 foot. Now you know where your casting rings are on your GPS, and you're going to be in the ballpark where those fish are.
All right. Here's another one from Arlo, and Arlo wants to know, what's the strangest thing you've caught while jigging for Lakers?
Well, due to legality, I will word it. We came in contact with some sturgeon. And there's a couple spots that I won't even take customers to anymore because I think that ethically it's like I know the sturgeon are there, and I don't want any attention from law. I don't want to look like I'm targeting them. but there's a couple areas out there that there's sturgeon, 8 foot long, 6 foot long. I don't know. I see them once they come up to the boat. They scare me. I'm like, I don't want to go swimming with those fish. I know they're vegetarians for the most part, or they eat dead fish, but that's probably the strangest thing.
No shoes or tires or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've caught some bizarre, shower curtains that had some stains on them that just didn't want to know about. I did my part and kept it in the boat and threw it away once we got to shore. But yeah, I've caught some weird things, some, inappropriate items. I've snagged before. You're in the you're the sweeper. You're the street sweeper there in that shallow water. You never know what you're gonna snag.
Well, let's talk about footballs. The smallmouth bass in that area are also legendary, and we talked about using bass gear. How about the smallmouth? When does that really turn on, and how do you go after those big footballs, smallmouth that I keep seeing on your Instagram?
Usually, so the ice will melt. Me and a couple buddies will play around with perch. It's usually a couple weeks. It's not fast and furious, but you can get onto a blade bite, and then you get into 40 degrees, 45 degrees. That blade bite it'll really kick on. Steelhead makes these minis. We typically go for the 3/8 ounce, a quarter ounce. I've never really used anything larger. Color spectrum, you're just kind of matching the water. If you're in real clear water, that's sexy shad, steelhead's money. Once you get into that muddy stuff, I'll go back to gold, or you could use a perch or something that just has a little more into that color spectrum of the muddy water. But that's a lot of fun. Once the blade bite will slow down, the old Ned rig, tubes, little finesse jigs, and it'll progress into the drop shot bite, and you could pretty much follow those fish out of Prescott after the spawn, and that bite, closer you get to New York line, it heats up. And right now our smallmouth fishing's tough right now. I don't know if the walleye bullied them up into New York or out into, they're just suspended. There's a lot of guys struggling for it right now, so we don't target them in August just because of success rates. But I'm sure there's someone out there catching them. There always is. Then in the fall, once they start to feel that cold water coming in, they start to pack on the pounds for winter, and they know what's coming, and that the blade bite will turn on again, and that's a lot of fun. Same thing. You're using your side imaging. You're looking for those bass, even in the areas you catch the lake trout. They kind of share that same structure, and the blade bite in the wintertime is a lot of fun.
All right, here's your buddy Caleb Kopp says he loves some fat footballs.
Oh, Caleb. He's a heck of a fisherman.
Yeah, he's out there doing it. And one of the things kind of wanted to talk to you about, and it's fun that Caleb came on at that time. I'm following you guys on Instagram, and the way I described it is you're just killing it out there on Instagram right now. You're a really fun follow. You got a lot of cool stuff going on. Looks like a good time on the boat. You're somehow getting old white guys to dance on the boat to music and all kinds of fun stuff. Tell us about kind of what you've got going on Instagram right now.
So, what is it? Annie Lennox, Walking on Broken Glass. That song just kind of stuck, and customers love it. Once that song starts, they just start dancing. It's bizarre. I don't know what it is. People that you ask their wives, they'd be like, I saw my husband on your social media story dancing. He hasn't danced since our wedding. It's Annie Lennox. It's not me. It's Annie Lennox, Walking on Broken Glass.
Yeah, you would never think it was that song, but it looks like you've got a party out there, and I think if people want to have a good time out on a charter, I mean, obviously we want to go catch fish, but if you're looking to have a good time, it looks like you guys are definitely doing out there, and I just wanted to say good job to you guys for doing all that stuff.
Well, thank you. I greatly appreciate that.
All right. If somebody wants to go out and have a good time with Captain Cory Elder, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Oh, give me a jingle. It's 724-679-4510. We're on a lot of social platforms. Our website, usually we keep it up to date every other day. It's XTRFishingCharters.com.
And did you have anything you wanted to talk about, Cory, that I didn't ask you about? So there's something you wanted to bring up?
Nothing I can think of. I'm looking at Chick-fil-A right now. I can see it down the road, and I have a slight addiction to their spicy chicken deluxe.
The spicy chicken deluxe. Don't forget a little Polynesian sauce to kind of give it a little zing, and you'll be good to go. Thanks so much for taking time out. And in your neck of the woods, it's 1:42, so it's pretty late to get that spicy chicken deluxe. I want to thank everybody who watched today, too. A little lunch hour show today. We decided to check it out and do it on the daytime to kind of make everybody's schedule work today. So really appreciate everybody for coming on and watching, listening. For Cory Elder, I'm Chris Larson. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next.